Welcome back to another episode of the Blitz Break. I'm your host, Phil Rasmussen, and we're back with another week's updates and some more discussion around mortgage, real estate, business, you name it. As always, I'm with my co-hosts and a few of the industry experts. Julie, mortgage, title, and social media expert and influencer. Welcome back.
Glad to be here.
Sitting in another chair, hopefully more comfortable, less comfortable, a little further away from...
Changing it up away from Buzz.
Yes, that's good. We had to navigate that.
Wow.
And as always, co-partner, leader here, and longtime Texan, and what do you call resident Californian now, Buzz Howard.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here with Julie and you, even though she's mean to me.
Hey, the meaner you are, the more you like somebody, right?
That's right.
That's the way it works. But this week we get an opportunity to talk a little bit more in depth about some of the things that I think are most kind of relevant in today's industry for all of us as like real estate mortgage professionals, really relating to what has been kind of a 3-4 year challenging market. And, the main topic, one that I obsess over, which is mindset and kind of where we are. And we've talked a lot about this the last few weeks, just in terms of where people's mindsets are today, what today looks like, and planning ahead. And there's a huge swell. You can see it on LinkedIn, on a lot of social media, of people that are thinking ahead and strategically planning for, hey, I survived this market, thrived in it in some cases. Some people just by a thread have kind of made ends meet, but you didn't do it to not be prepared to capitalize when things turn. And then there's plenty of others that still haven't kind of shifted ahead. So wanted to kind of jump us off right out of the gate, kind of in, the front end conversation of, what we're seeing a lot when we talk to, our peers, other companies, things that we're seeing. And I know, Julie, you were just at a, kind of a big top producer event, and you were, kind of diving into the different aspects. So would love to kind of start with what were some of the things that you heard from that event and the different topics of what was helping people be successful currently.
Yeah, it was a panel made up of the top 5 in like each different category, like luxury, commercial, flipping, new homes, and like rural areas. So they took the top 5. And I think the overshadowing topic was how well a lot of them were leveraging social media and different AI, but still at the same time, keeping the relationships tight and close. So you could see all of them really had long-standing relationships that they cultivated like daily, weekly, and monthly. That was like they all had that in common. But then I think the ones that like social media isn't as useful in the commercial space, but the rest of them definitely were highly leveraged. So I think it's interesting how even the top producers are adamant about how you have to be positioned on social media.
On social and the system, I think that's been, I'd say for the last 2 to 3 years, it's been a heavy emphasis in my mind, which is there is a lot that goes into creating a system that you can replicate and scale that gives you the freedom to actually invest in genuine interactions with your clients, with your database, and also have those touch points that you're not having to invest a ton of brain space, but is still connecting. And that's where social media and effective systems with, your CRMs and take time to plan. And for a lot of people, frankly, they were able to be successful without ever really putting a ton of thought into that. And, those that have managed to merge the two, I mean, you can see it. There are some producers that I greatly admire that I've worked with in the past, and I've watched them grow tremendously through this market. And every one of them has that quality, right? They are.
But don't you think that's what sets them apart is just like us putting this together, all of that upfront, the learning process, the equipment, the distribution, all of that is what I think sets people apart, just learning that process.
Absolutely. And it's a tough thing to do because there's so much noise around it, right? Like if you go online and search, social media management, content creation. You can find 1,000 opportunities to spend your money on people that will help you, but you don't know what the results are going to look like until you try it. You don't know if that content is actually going to hit home with you. And a lot of times the real challenge is, how do you impart your unique voice into that while, actually creating scale that you're not so focused on, and losing your ability to focus on your sales ability. And I think where a lot of the people that are really successful have figured out, one, if you're hyper focused on your lead generation and you're in an abundant state, you always have the resources to kind of invest in trying new things, expanding, and then the discipline to say, I actually really do need to invest in learning one thing, then another thing, and then systems. Like, it sounds and is so cliche, but it's because it's so true, right? If you can't build a system, you can't scale it.
That's why I think that we respect what she's doing so much, is because Julie focused in on, I think you love TikTok, and you focused in on TikTok first and really learned that and got that system down, and as leaning into that, you've gained this great following.
But it was uncomfortable at the beginning. People laughed at me because I was a mature person on TikTok, and I wasn't a dancer, obviously, Buzz, you know that. But it wasn't comfortable. But I think if people could get uncomfortable, they would see success so much quicker, because it's not comfortable to learn platforms and to learn systems, and it's not fun. But if you can get through that uncomfortable part, the reward is huge. And take TikTok. It's really difficult to build an audience now, but because I got in early and was ahead of the curve, I was able to build followers so much faster right out of the gate. And I think the agents and the lenders that are able to see the vision and get their platforms and social medias dialed in and keep their relationships with their customers, those are the ones that are going to win. And I'm seeing it right in front of me, which I told you, 6% of the real estate agents are doing 90% of the business in the United States. Why is that? Because they're leveraging those systems and programs, and they're keeping those relationships. And if they do that, can't compete, because their reach is so much bigger than everybody else's.
They're putting the numbers game in their favor. Yep. They're connecting with their audience, their clients, their referral, their strategic partners, their lead funnels, wherever it's all. Yeah, they're managing to do, quote unquote, all of it. But that system of how you do it, whether it's people, the reality currently is that the industry went through the reverse. We went through the contraction where people there was layoffs, there was reduction in your staffing, which was very painful, and for a lot of people was emotionally taxing. I can raise my hand. I went through it. I know you and I've talked about it. Everybody's done it. And kind of overcoming that and realizing, okay, when the market starts to shift, you now have to rebuild that scale, because one thing that this industry has taught me in 20 years is that nothing ever happens slowly, right? When the market gets fast, it's like you go to bed one night, you're wondering how much volume you're going to do, and you get up the next morning, you're like, we don't have enough staff to handle what just happened. Like, it's so fast in that type of way that if you don't already have infrastructure in place to handle the scale, then you're chasing your tail. And I mean, I've been through it when you're seeing, all right, underwriting turn times are pushed out to 30 days at companies. Their processing can't get to it. Then you're competing. Can't get an appraisal done. You're competing with, 100 other people for the same person to hire, because now that person's in such demand, and you're not able to necessarily hire the right person anymore. You have to hire out of just sheer panic and scale. Like, all those things are kind of how it always happens. Mm-hmm. But if you've managed to be successful and you're in a position and you can do that preparation now, you're, like, there's the whole Warren Buffett quote of, like, when you're preparing for it to rain gold, like, don't put out a thimble, put out a bucket, put out a bin. Like, that's what you can also see the top producers. They're doing well now, but they're also prepared to take on 100% increase in volume and double up, and their mindset's that way. And there's a lot of people out there right now that have kind of removed themselves from being in a scale. They're on a one man, one woman show type of thing.
I think that's I think that's a looming issue for a lot of people. There was this, and I'll just say it, there was this huge runoff from larger organizations to people saying, I've got this scarcity mindset, so I'm going to go over here by myself. I can keep my costs down, and I can still do what business I'm doing, and I can maximize every single dollar. But the problem is going to be when this market does move, and some of us feel like there's this feeling that we're moving into that right now, the way that the markets have moved here just this week in 4 days. And so the problem is when this does move, they're going to be going, oh, I can just hire someone to help me. But then they have to stop producing, because a lot of these organizations that they've gone to are kind of do-it-yourself organizations. Yep. You want a processor? Find one and pay for it. Yep. You want this? Find them and pay for it. You're making all this money, so do it yourself. So what's going to happen is, as they go out to look for that next employee, they're not producing. As they train that employee, hope it's a good employee, they have to train them, they're not producing. So now they're taking themselves out of what little momentum might be out there. And that's one of the things that we hear all the time. And, there's this old saying that Lord, give me one more refinance craze, and I promise not to piss it away. Right? Sorry, can I say that?
I think you did. So
I did. So the reason why that is there is because a lot of times the momentum shift has a window. And if you're spending that window looking for someone, training someone, trying to build new systems for that volume, if it's not already there, if the support mechanism isn't already there, a lot of times you're going to miss that window and you're going to piss it away, and you didn't need to.
Yeah, there's always an investment in the growth that you have to go.
Yeah.
So but if it's like preparedness, right? Like the athlete in me is like, I want to have already run through this scenario 1,700 times before it actually hits. So I already know what to do. I've already got a plan for it, and I have plan A, B, C, and D for all the ways it could go wrong and what I'm going to do when that happens. And the beauty of a market that's drug on is that we've had time to level out, acclimate, return to, varying levels of profitability as an industry that makes sense, and now restructure for a future. That's what everybody's had time. But the reality, whether it's the stock market, whether it's like you were an early adopter into, a TikTok, if you're not out on the front, you're always playing catch up. Mm-hmm. And so that's the conversation I have. And I think one thing that I in this topic, I find interesting in a lot of conversations with, whether it's, realtors, loan officers that, our own, people that we're talking to on the recruiting front, autonomy and control is great. And we all want it because we're all very different. And I think it's important. Like I always emphasize that one size fits all is not a good model for salespeople, because we're all very different and we need varying types of support. But the idea that I'm a one-person show, a lot of people don't like to manage people. They don't want to hire. They don't want to build a system or deal with. So you need to be able to delegate. And sometimes people get enamored with the idea of, well, saving costs, but then losing sight of the fact, like, man, for me to go out and hire someone is going to take me 10 times the work and stress as if I had someone that I could have help me with that, because I'm not great at that.
Someone else just to do it.
Yeah, like what's your specialty? And the ones that are going to win, and I think this is probably what I would be willing to bet you heard in that overarching theme, right, are going to be insanely focused on doing the thing they love the most, are best at, and that generates the most return.
And delegate everything else.
And everything else, they're going to have someone in place to take care of for them, so they can go do the thing that's going to move the needle the most, right? Generate more leads, talk to more clients.
Even if it costs you money, even if there's a cost for that, it's something that's important. There's so many different people that talk about it in all aspects of your life. when you hire someone to do your yard, because that takes away that time. You don't try to work on your own car unless that's your hobby. You don't. So you hire people around you to do the things that make your life easier. Just like when you're running your business, you have someone that manages processing and ops and all of those kind of things, right?
100%.
Not try to recreate it yourself, because you're going to have to spend time learning to do that. And just interviewing people, it takes you out of what you do best.
Out of your lane, repetition.
100%. I also think that on those top 5, they really focus on their team members' strengths and put them in the position that they're the best at, right?
Yep.
So you have a videographer, you have a social media person. Because for you to get to my level on TikTok would take years, right? But if you could just hire me and plug me in.
He just has to create an account to start with, right?
Can
And
we
know
just
his
start an
password.
account?
I'm going to download it this afternoon.
So that would be right? That's a perfect example. Or you could just leverage me to do your video, right? That's what they're doing. They're looking at the best of the best in each category, and then they're leveraging so they can go show the house, so they can go network with their clients and relationship build.
Well, think how many people are out there that aren't working with someone like yourself that is already figured all this out. I mean, I'm sure that you run into that all the time. There's other people that do what you do that don't have any clue on all this stuff, which is so important, and they're working with them. Why would they do that?
I don't know. I don't know, but I mean, there's you got to start somewhere. Let's start from there. And for everybody listening that is kind of pushing back on social media, I want to do this quick exercise with you. When you have a minute on ChatGPT, I want you to say, I want to sell my house at 123 Main Street. Which real estate agent should I use? Just do that exercise and see what happens. And the top 3 will come up, and it will give you an intricate detail about why they picked them. And they pulled all the information from their closings, from chat, from their SEO, from social media, from articles, from podcasts, from YouTube. They pulled everything, and they gave me 3 names. So if that doesn't tell you how important SEO is and being out, nothing will.
Yeah.
So think about that.
Yeah.
That the game is changing, and that's why the 6% are going to be doing the majority of the business, because they are seeing where it's going. And in one click, I don't know anybody. And remember, Google has paid for ads. Well, right now, ChatGPT, no one's paying to play. So that's an honest assessment of who I should use. So that's why I tell agents and lenders, partner with somebody that knows what you need to be good at.
Well, and
right?
and someone that can help shortcut it too. Like I think the idea that you have to be an expert in everything is also a falsity. You have to be smart enough to put the right people around you, which is what you're saying. And if you put the right people around you and you learn the things that are the most impactful, you can stay focused in your lane. As a leader, for me, I obsess over learning a process and all the complexities so that I can simplify it, and we can give it to people and go, guess what? I'm not gonna bog your brain down with a process. Here it is in the easiest fashion possible for you to implement it, so you can keep doing what you're doing. And I can already address, like in any sales process, all the objections in your head as to why you don't want to do this, because I know it's good for you, and I'm trying to make it easy. Like that's my job. And I think when people are trying to build a process, sometimes there's this well, I need to figure out how to make videos, how to edit videos, or I'm going to totally disconnect from it, and I'm just going to hire someone and never learn it. And I think there's this balance of, you need to understand enough so you know how to manage it, but who's going to help you figure out what those things are? So you got to be able to find the right people that can tell you, this is what you need to know, and then be able to put the pieces in place. And I think from my own experience and just others, sometimes that is hard in a world where everyone's selling you something and everyone's got a pitch. And it goes back to why the top people that you're referring to, they don't just win because of their systems. They win because they're also able to be personal and connect and be reliable and trustworthy and provide those like reliable references and information, because that, as a person, I'm trying to make a decision on who do I bring into my business. I would like to have someone that knows what they're talking about, make sure that I do the right thing and don't waste my time. But how do you find that, right? Well, the more that you can connect with someone and trust their input, that's what every homeowner is looking for. That's what every borrower is looking for. But they also want the ease of the technology and a smooth process. And so those top producers, they're doing both. And that other 94%, they're working just on relationship. And so they're missing out on the ones that are like, hey, I need it to be easier, faster. They're getting out touched by not having enough bandwidth created. And then you have people that are also trying to do it and automate it to the degree that I don't have a connection with you. I don't have any connection. And those, they will always serve a particular audience, but the 94% are losing to the 6% because they're finding both.
Yep.
100%. So you touched on it right there when you said automation. So there are like, I'll just get a third party to post all my stuff, and it's not authentic and it's not their face, and it's you can tell it's definitely
not them.
Not them. And that doesn't work. Just FYI for the long run.
We've said it over and over and over.
Yeah.
It's the high tech plus high touch. It's got to be both.
Yep.
It's got to be both.
100%. And what does that take? A lot of time. So again, it's overwhelming. There's so much noise, and you'll hear one thing and then not the other. Use Facebook, use Instagram. Definitely don't use that. Use TikTok. I think you got to cut out all the noise. You have to explore a little bit of each platform. And I would tell you it would be Facebook. 95% or more agents are on Facebook, believe it or not.
Sure.
Instagram for sure. TikTok has its own use, definitely for videos. TikTok's the easiest to edit in. Everybody's trying to catch up to them.
But you can use TikTok across all the others.
Correct. You just record it in TikTok, only to you to visual, and then it saves to your photos. Easy. YouTube, they need a Google business page. These are all things they have to have. Even just to be on the page, Buzz, just be on the page. You don't have to post on it, but it gives you credibility that, the millennials, again, buying half the homes in the next 5 years, are going to look at that stuff. They're going to look at your consistency and how relevant you are. So you got to be on there.
You've got to. And what you were both just talking about that I think is a really important aspect is, I think you have different ways of thinking that we all as human beings kind of operate in, but there are a lot of people that they compare their social media to yours or to someone who's built it out, and then they go, I can't do that, and they're overwhelmed. Versus if they scroll all the way back to the beginning of like the most impactful, and they see the start, they'll realize that it is a process. And one of the big things I believe in is getting one thing installed that you can put on autopilot, and a lot of times that is maybe the least personalized content, but it gets you now consistently building a presence, and now that's in place, and then you have something to build in around.
That's a great call out. Get something out that's consistent, like you said. Yeah, you can do that easily.
And then you can build in around, and people want to have, educational stuff. They want to have personal stuff, and it's a lot easier to polish something that already exists than to create something from scratch for yourself. And so, when we like kind of look at the process, my mind always works on, all right, how do I get something in place right away? And then how do we help break through the barriers of how to expand on it? And for people that are trying to crack through, it's take those bite-sized chunks. Like if you can install, I think it's a lot of pressure early on for people to try to come up with something to say all the time that haven't built a habit. Although there's a lot of ways to get creative ideas now. I've started using ChatGPT. Like my brain works in a way where like I'm very hyper focused, and so sometimes it's like I cannot get my brain to go to a certain space. But as soon as I get there, like now I'm locked in. I can use ChatGPT to like essentially have a quick conversation, and it'll get my brain into that spot. So like there's things like that I think that help us all, but even if you are somebody who is, okay, I've got creative ideas. Like you have a ton of creative ideas you come up with. it can be a lot to say, I've got to post every day right away. Like the discipline that it takes early on, we all like to have it, but if you've installed something that's consistent, that is going to happen whether you do anything or not, if you miss a day, you're not completely losing traction, and it allows you to build habits progressively. And I think for early stage people, that's a great way. And there's a lot of tools that I think have been around for a long time that miss the mark, but they're just a part of a stew, right? Like all the big corporate content, like the company's material that is educational, loan programs and real estate.
Well, the glossy magazine ad type of stuff.
And it's if you make it at that, you can look at a social media page, you can go, that's all that content is. But who cares if you start there and you can now build in, that's a building block, because now you have that infrastructure to go from. The problem is when you don't go any further and that's all you have, now you have no human connection to it. But
so you have to fill in around that.
Fill in around it. But I think it's easier to fill in around or to get a sense of your voice when stuff is happening. And I said this before, but the less you post, the more pressure every post seems to have on it, because it's going to sit there forever.
Right.
And if it isn't a great post and it's up there, that's all people are going to see.
And it's still at the top of your news feed.
And so you're obsessing over it.
You want to get a whole bunch of stuff to push the dumb one down.
Right? So I think that, as we've talked about it I think there's a lot of that, but being around people that help you push and enter things into your equation is a process for people. So who do you associate with? Who do you collaborate with? And as a company, I think industries, title, mortgage, real estate, do a really good job of the corporate branding, but they haven't figured out how to do the human branding. And that's why I'm obsessed with, we start with the individual, and our brand is going to be built off of our ability to brand our individuals, because really that's what the consumer connects with anyway. And we're trying to solve that problem.
Yeah. And that gives you more power too, to be with a company that can, you know what I mean? Get your SEO built out. That's the name of the game right now. Who can help me do that the best?
Who can help with that? And not ask me to become something I've never been, right? Like, let me still be myself.
Yeah.
And I think the pressure of comparison is the thing that, I talk about with my kids.
We should talk about that, because I think a lot of people don't even get in the game because of that.
Yeah.
And people even lose sight of when they oh my God, I only got 200 likes on that. 200 views is not great on TikTok. It's 200 people that saw what you said, and they had to watch the video in the entirety before it counts as a view. So 200 people watched your video, Buzz. If you had 200 people in this room right now and you were telling them about whatever program,
story,
would you be so happy?
Oh, absolutely. 200
people, but people lose sight of, you got 200 views. That's a lot.
Well,
and
they also they compare. And it's not all. It's really not fair to compare yourself to, like, for me to compare myself to you. The issue is that I have a set of friends and a sphere over here that really doesn't might have some overlay because we're friends.
Yeah.
But in reality, your sphere is over here, mine's over here. So I'm not. The people that are watching mine are not comparing me to watching something that you're doing.
100%.
So if I'm a loan officer and I'm doing something, it's not like all the consumers are going, I like that guy's video, but this one's better. This one's terrible. They're not doing that because they're not getting the same 3 videos. It's not like you're watching television where you have 1 million people watching television and they're all seeing the three commercials in between the movie. It's totally separate. So you're not really being compared. You just have to be genuine.
Well, and that's, I think the thing
100%.
with that too is there's a human element that social media does in droves. And I've heard this a lot. I've personally experienced this psychological thought process, right? Of worrying about what the haters or the people that have a negative comment are going to say versus focusing on the people that connected with the content. So if for the 200 people that watched it and maybe you got 6 likes, those are your clients. That's your network anyway. So who cares about the people that have negative things to say? But as human beings, most of us are consumed by the negative commentary that we think is going to be, stated,
Right.
said, thought, and we're worrying about that. And I've heard people, as I've talked to them about social, about like, it's the same thing as the salesperson who doesn't handle the rejection and forgets, well, I got 2 yeses, so why am I fixated on the 8 no's? Unless you're focused on what you can learn from the 8 no's, you got 2 yeses. That's your focus.
Right. They're focused on the negative instead of the positive.
And worrying about it, and that's causing them to be like afraid to just be themselves on camera. Like there's a couple people in particular that come to mind to me. I would just say that they're very mild-mannered and reserved. They're not your very outgoing, like gonna be goofy, funny. And to me, I'm like, you have an audience of people that will appreciate just somebody who's almost like just being normal. Like there's nothing flashy, and they will connect with that. There are people. Then there's one in particular I just recently talked with, or we were trying to get him off. That's your lean in, is you should like literally just be the exact opposite of what you're used to seeing. Like go reverse and be like almost sarcastically boring, and see like that's an angle. But you're so worried about trying to be like that and saying I could never. Don't. Why don't?
Well, how many stars are out there? Think of the comedians that are totally opposite of everybody else. They tell their stories deadpan. Can't think of the guy's name. Who's that guy that always talks? He never smiles. He never laughs.
I know who you're talking about. I don't know his name,
right?
but yeah, I do.
And people love it because he's totally opposite of other comedians that jump up and down and tell these stories. He just stands there and deadpans it. Doesn't even crack a smile. Unless it's just a really funny situation, then you can see him have to turn around. But he does it totally opposite. So there is a market for that.
And again, trial and error. Who cares if people don't connect? Like if a post goes through, I see it all the time, like on LinkedIn. Oh, you got 50, 52 views on that. All right, I've had 10,000 views on things. I've had literally at the end of the day, it's temporary. And I saw a thing recently, like there's the vanity numbers versus like, what does it actually do? If you only got 8 views and you got 1 lead off it, that's awesome. Like that was a productive
I was just
deal.
going to say the engagement part. Like I would take 100,000 followers or 10,000, but if you get engagement on 10,000, not a lot of engagement on 100, who cares? And you see that on TikTok Shop. I'll just bring up TikTok Shop because it's kind of a hot topic.
Again.
I'll bring it up. But we're
working on we're working on a
episode
whole like
sponsored by
sponsorship with TikTok for you here. We got it. It's
Okay,
coming.
perfect. So there are people on there that have 10,000 followers. I have, a lot. They're making like $30,000-$40,000 a month with 10,000 followers. I'm not even close to that because I have a job. But if you know what I'm saying?
They're that 10,000 is a
tight.
network and family and yep.
And so it is about engagement, not so much followers. So don't get caught up on the followers at all.
And that's what I think gets conflated in people's perceptions of what it is. Sometimes, what is your objective on social? Like if you're a salesperson or a professional in an industry, getting 1 million followers that don't engage with you isn't going to help you business. Now, maybe you can monetize that separately, but having a core group that's very connected to you and engages and buys things, and that is what you're targeting. So when you think about your content, going viral is less of a priority than creating stuff that engages the audience where
100%.
you want to engage, right? And I think that is something that is the discussion point, right? It's the thing that going forward we want to consistently encourage people to start thinking like that and get out of, again, comparing yourself to something and also phoning it in, right? Like put a little thought into just who you are and the system to help expedite that and share that is, something that you really can't build overnight. Like you have to start small, make those commitments. And I know in a lot of ways, saying this, there are people late to the game. Like social media has been around a long time. There's all these platforms, but there's always a new one. Like I was just saying yesterday to, to one of our, newest members, right, about like, I'm super interested in Blue Sky right now, as like, it's obviously still in its early stages.
I've never heard of it.
Okay, me neither.
Not surprising, right? It was when TikTok was on.
High five.
When TikTok was potentially in the ban mode, like Blue Sky and Red Note, whereas everybody was kind of starting to gravitate.
I thought it was Lemonade.
That's why I said there's so many, right? So Blue Sky's one, like that.
Lemonade.
Lemonade.
Oh,
lemon and then the number 8.
I've never heard of that one either.
I have 10,000 followers on Lemonade.
Hence the point. Like there's always a new
just saying buzz
place, right?
Yeah.
Like so Blue Sky to me, I'm like I've never been one that's been the first to a platform in my career, right? Like, but I see these other ones and I'm like, I'm fascinated by the ones. Which one are you going to get out in front of first? So I think when people start looking at that, you can really look to the fact that it is as old as social media has now become. It's been around. There's always something new, and there's always a new market and a new opportunity for you to attack. And what we're talking about is both creating a brand and a presence and generating direct conversations that lead to business. And that's two different things, but they can intersect if you have a plan.
You got to simplify. And I think that, and you guys can agree, the number one thing that I think is the misstep is that we tell you simple systems, but no one executes. You have to execute. You have to simplify it like you're trying to do with video, right? Like, how do I simplify this so that there's adoption? And I think that's what we all do as leaders is how can I take this and make it so simple that the community will actually do what I say. So that's what I'm working on too, like trying to give them the easiest steps to get where they need to go.
Well, that's one of the problems with a lot of tools. As a larger company, we offer a lot of tools. And what I've found, I've been here 15, 16 years, what I've found is that these are fantastic tools. When you start looking at them, you're going, oh my God, I can't believe it does all this and it does that and it'll help you with all of these things. And when you present it, you only get a certain amount of adoption. You only get, and sometimes it's very low. It's like
under 10%. It's usually under on titled tools.
Right.
10% is a successful launch.
100%.
Yeah. But that means that 90% of the people either didn't pay attention, didn't read it, didn't think it would help them for some reason. And so they just let that tool lay there. And it's obviously like this with social media. I do believe that more than, I don't know what percentage. Does anybody know what the percentage of people that actually go to social media every day?
75% or more.
Okay.
Find their house on social media.
Well, it's
a lot.
My last house that I bought, I found the house and called my realtor and said, I want to see this house.
On social media?
I found it on basically social media and said, I want to see this house. And she got me access. We looked at the inside. She had the contract to write up. So it was that's how it works.
100%.
Yep.
And video obviously has a 1,200% more viewing rate than a still photo, which is why video is so powerful in real estate.
It not only is it, like beyond proven statistically, right? The value, all the things that play into human nature that have gotten in the way, like my quote unquote problem that I felt like I saw was clearly in the way for what we're talking about is when you just think about where the technology, the tools, and the costs were. Like all the companies I've been at, I've been really invested in trying to create video because of the data. But where we succeeded was usually the corporate content because you had the budget, you had the team, you had the resources to kind of go through the editing process and polishing. and the manpower and the scalability to create the same type of quality content down to your individual salespeople was not viable on a cost level. And if you were going to invest that resource, you didn't have enough buy-in to justify it. And so there was this like kind of what was going to be the scale that tipped first so that you could actually overcome it. And, being able to, use the tools we use today to kind of get people in and do it on scale and get over those hurdles is something we're doing now. And it's like breaking through the ice or the glass ceiling with people. It's like once you're through it, now we've kind of taken the fear out of it and started that process. That's available today, and it wasn't 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And, I say it all the time, thousands of dollars in equipment, hours upon hours, planning, shooting, recording, editing, and then 1 out of every 15 videos makes it out. That felt, and so there's a lot of people that I think have a bad taste in their mouth from those experiences. Like, I shot this video, it didn't sound great, I never released it. And so they've just kind of, all right, I'm putting that aside.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of people that battle like the aggrandizing concept of like, look at me. And there's all these things that you hear people's objections, but I personally believe if you've shut that off, you have to take a fresh look at what exists today as an option to kind of open that door, and not from the standpoint of, again, comparing yourself, but like, what can I do today efficiently? And that's where, like you said, being able to streamline it is a huge change in terms of capacity and ability with the tools.
But I think you also nailed it. If it's not comfortable for you, you probably won't do it. So they don't want to be on camera. I don't want to be on camera because it's self-promoting. You hear that a lot.
Right.
And that's okay. All right. So you're not comfortable promoting fine, then don't put yourself on the videos. You can still shoot amazing content, Buzz, without your face.
Which is better?
No, we want to see your face. But I'm in all seriousness, you don't have to be on camera to make a connection. You can create very great videos that move people without putting yourself on camera.
Without a doubt. And to that point, engaging with the customer, connecting. I mean, these have been around for a while, but when you talk about like milestone updates in loan processes and updates, there's automated tools out there that allow the alerts, and clients want the automated, like the instant, but there's nothing that should stop, even if you're not a big video person, from that being you delivering that message. Because if you can deliver that message via video with the same connection, you just made more time for you to have deeper conversations about planning and other structures, because you're just dealing with updates. There's so many things like that I think people, again, it's there, and you're going to get run laps around in this next market. We're talking scale opportunity. You can't turn a blind eye to this, because no matter how great you are on the phone, no matter how great you are in a meeting, no matter how close you think you are, if you used to talk to your clients twice a year, do a mortgage annual checkup, do a birthday, do like these different things, there are tools out there where there's somebody's going to be talking to your clients 10 times a month. And eventually there's going to be those that are going to now convert over. So you really have to think ahead. And I think that, piece obviously is where we're at in the industry, and, what we're talking about a lot here, and bringing it back to, as we kind of, I think switching a little bit of like the focus that, why are we doing this, right? It's the business that we do, right? I mean, you've been in title. I mean, as long as I've been in the business, you've been, a staple in title, and, watch me go from I wouldn't say a baby-faced baby, but a knucklehead didn't know anything to a knucklehead that knows a few things.
Few things.
Still a knucklehead.
Yes. The knucklehead part's not going away, but the process of a borrower buying a home and going through the fears and the concerns. You notice I was just on Reddit this, the last couple of days, and was looking at some of these posts of like first-time home buyers and their questions. Yeah. And it kind of struck me because you kind of lose sight of the fact that as free as information is today, people still have the same apprehensions and the same questions and the same concerns towards home ownership. And everything we're talking about is connecting to that person as the one that's going to answer their questions and help them on that journey. And there was a couple that I thought were interesting. I wanted to share and kind of open the discussion. But so this was a post. I'm in my 40s, been an apartment dweller since I graduated high school. I simply cannot afford rent going up $100 a month every year now. I'm single, no roommates. It's time to just buy something. I've recently found out that I can use my 401k balance to help for it. Like, that's new to the right. So I'll be looking into that more for sure because I definitely don't have much in savings. Where do I start? I've been browsing the real estate apps for places and areas to get an idea of what's out there. But I'm in a lease now for about 8 more months. So, of course, the available homes are not going to be available in the spring. Do I get a real estate agent now? Do I pay them as a buyer? I think I read that the seller usually pays the agent. There's just so much involved, and it's all so very overwhelming. I need to find a step-by-step guide or something, advice.
Wow.
And there's a 200 comments, replies, conversation, the dominoes. But when I read that, it's like, it's for some of us as professionals, you can kind of forget that in 2025 that still exists. And
I've read some of those, and I've looked at the 200 responses, and it may have been that same. I don't think it was, but I was blown away by how many incorrect responses or inappropriate responses there were or are to those kind of questions. And it's crazy that that professionals aren't on there dropping truth bombs and
that is interesting. Here's a fun fact: 70% of people who buy their home buy it with the first person they come in contact. So whoever contacts that guy who's legit, he'll probably end up buying a house with them. 70%. So again, why you have to be forward facing, consistently in front of your sphere, consistently in front of people. That's why. 70%.
Well,
over 70%.
There were so many questions in that one feed.
Yes.
Just the idea of what assets can be utilized for purchasing a house. There was the fear of do I buy now or do I wait, and what the consequences of that is. There was one Reddit that I read because we were talking about this as fascinating subjects, and it was saying, well, I think I'm going to wait because I hear that interest rates will go down, and of course we're hoping that they do, but these people are waiting. Just think, if you wait a year now, you may, sure, interest rates may be a little bit lower, but the value of the house has gone up. And so and sometimes guidelines change, programs change. I've seen a lot of first-time homebuyer programs that if you don't use it now, they run out of money. Mm-hmm. So all of those kinds of factors come in when someone says, well, should I buy now? Absolutely. You buy now. Interest rates go down,
later.
We can refinance you.
Yes.
Matter of fact, we have a program to where it's called the refinance redo, because if it will help you with your cost. If you buy now, we'll help you with your cost when you refinance later, if it's within 18 months. If we helped you buy and it was the wrong timing, well, sure, you froze that sales price, and we'll help you with the refinance so we get that lower interest rate.
Yeah, take the fear and turn it into the hope, right? If I got the house and I got and I'm going to get my second loan at a cheaper price because we're doing 2-for-1. And the incorrect information is crazy. Like, one other one that I saw that I found really interesting, and then I want to pick you guys' brains on just like experiences we've had, but was another home buyer who was, the whole post was around them being frustrated at the inflated levels of home prices that they've been seeing over like a 6-7 year period. And the whole commentary from the post was that, every time I start to look and I go and I look at the home that I would want to buy and the fact that it's gone up $100,000 in value and their thing is, it's so frustrating because I don't want to overpay and I don't want to be the one that gets taken advantage of. And then they get a whole bunch of comments like kind of like some people like, hey dummy, that's what would have happened if you'd have bought it 2 years ago. And you keep thinking you're overpaying, but you just keep missing out on the up. And then you have all the comments of people that share that same fear. And reading it, I just think it's interesting because it reminds us that information is so valuable. And when we circle like back to, things that you're saying, whether it's on social or conversations, sometimes I think people take for granted that this information isn't freely known by everyone, right?
Yeah.
And so even if it feels like you've said this 100 times, you saying it again might reach the person who's having this issue and hasn't, that's just come into the home buying experience. And so I think these stories are funny. And then the last one, and then I want to pick your guys' brains on some funny stuff. But there was one I ended up reading that was like, okay, this is why people want to buy, right? There was, right in this feed was somebody sharing a text message from their landlord who they had just caught being in their house using the restroom when they came home. And so then they're sharing,
passing by and I had to use the bathroom.
And they caught him and they opened their door and then their landlord's yelling, "Don't come in!" And the bathroom door's wide open and they're using the restroom. And then they're sharing this text message of what the landlord is saying to them, which is like, "I'm entitled. I have the key. I can use your restroom." And it's like, and they're like, "I need to buy. Like I can't." And first off, that's hilarious because I'm like that's one for the ages. But there's humanity and living lives that goes on with home ownership, home renting, and reasons why people want us to get secured. And so we've been in the business a long time, all of us. So I'm curious, some of the most memorable, funniest, most ridiculous stories that you've seen. So that bathroom story, and I'll kick it off, reminded me early in my career, I was working open houses all the time with agents, and one of the agents that I worked with had eaten something bad and were at the open house and they needed to use the restroom. So they went and used it and they clogged the toilet and it overflowed. And now the whole open house, and it was a heavy foot traffic, and the main hallway bathroom has flooded. It's a complete disaster. And I was in my 20s, and I thought, it's like, looking back, I'm like, it's not happening again. But that was one of the funniest things. The agent was so embarrassed. People are coming in. I'm like, you're actually we should have closed the open house, but people were touring it, and we're sitting there, we're waiting on a plumber.
Go around the other way.
And the carpet's getting soggy. I mean, you're talking like horror story. And over the years, there's been a lot of hilarious things, but I'd be curious, like some memorable ones, things that buyers have, said and done, excuses that you've heard, sellers. I'm curious, any memorable stories?
One of the funniest stories about open house that I heard, someone told me about, is they planned an open house. They set it up, put out their signs, all of that kind of stuff. They went in and they were on the phone. They had their, ear pods in or whatever you call them. It was on the phone and kind of walked to the back of the house. They forgot to unlock the front door. And so people started coming to the open house. The door wasn't open. They knocked. No one came because he was in the back on the phone, and he blurted on. He said for over an hour, thinking, well, no one's coming to this open house because no one had come in. And it wasn't until he had already been, the house was supposed to have been open for like an hour and a half, and he walked up and was going to go outside, realized that the front door was locked, and someone was trying to get in, and they said, oh, yeah, there's been a bunch of people that have come and gone. So
note to self.
Unlock the front door.
That's a great takeaway, Buzz.
Yeah, it was that was kind of I've never heard anybody clog up the toilet though.
That was the story on Reddit just totally reminded me of it too, and yet like we just sold our house and we had agents come and show our house and not close the back doors. Like I'd come home and was like, glass doors or sliding doors are wide open. I'm like, that's okay, awesome. Okay,
so I used to go to some of the showings with some of my clients. I had a realtor that we were just best friends. So on a weekend, I would go with them to see houses. And we went into a house one time, had a dog. You weren't supposed to let the dog out. Well, they went out in the backyard and the dog went out. And I wound up staying, trying to get the dog to get in. And it took me like 45 minutes. They went ahead and went and looked at homes and all of that. And I had to call my girlfriend to come pick me up because it took me 45 minutes to get the dang dog back in the house. And we were scared that, oh my gosh, why does this dog not, can't go outside? And that was horrible. That was a personal experience that I was just scared to death that something was going to happen to that dog.
You have to, at signings, I think there's been a lot of funny moments in my career that I remember from signings, a lot of situations through title, weird situations with how title, like properties are held, like, where you have liens and there's literally no one to even, like, how do you release it? Like, I mean, what kind of memories, what are some of the weirdest transactions you can recall in your career?
I mean, there's not, just because I don't work in that space, more in the sales space, but I think like with liens that we have no record or they're 100 years old, whatever, I think title has some conversations with the title, and is it worth the risk that we're insuring? Obviously $1 million liability, we might look at that a little closer, but we kind of make a judgment call on that. Mine's more operational. And this goes back to, if the interest rates were to drop a half a point or a point, what it would be like. It would be crazy, right?
Yep.
Purchases and refinances left and right. And I think there was a year in there, and who I'm talking about, Sandy Miller. I was going to help her because she was so inundated. And that's another reason to buy right now. We're going into the slow season. Service levels are going to be exceptional, but you get into that season. Mm-hmm. And I remember saying, I'm going to help you. I'll clear your voicemail. I'll just take notes. And I logged into the phone. It says, you have 117 voicemails. 117 voicemails. I was like, what? So, I mean, that's a great example as to why now is a great time, because it could be coming. We are hearing rumblings of rate decreases. We are.
Oh, sure.
And if that happens, I mean, there's so many people on the fence, yours truly, who doesn't want to do anything because my jumbo loan is at 2.7. Mm-hmm. So why would I want to do anything, right? But man, those rates
You'll be
drop.
there forever.
I know. Right? If there's something I could buy, like maybe even a vacation home, I might do it if the rates drop a little bit. And I think there's a lot of people out there like that.
Well, and not only is there the movement, but there's also people, based on what we went through from an inflation perspective and just the way the society is run with, that have accumulated a tremendous amount of credit card debt.
Oh my gosh.
Personal loan debt, all the ways to kind of make ends meet because they didn't want to touch that loan, or they didn't take out an equity line. The various. So the minute that it makes sense for them to refinance, this is the part I can't emphasize. Like, title's going to get saturated with, it's a refinance to raise the rate from 2 3/4, but with what it's saving them to move to, 5.5%, 6%, whatever, is saving them thousands of dollars in what they've accumulated in debt. That has, like, if you look at the statistics and the data of credit, like, that has built. And there are a lot of people out there that the ability to move that into the equity in their home they've accumulated is going to hit in droves. Well,
it's a conversation about the difference between your house payment and your total bills,
your monthly cash flow, yeah.
Especially when you start talking about, you mentioned credit card debt. I think we're $1.8 trillion now on credit card debts. There's over $1.2 trillion in student loans that, by the way, I saw some ungodly number of like 70% of that 1.2 trillion student loans is currently in default.
Do you know why that is? Because I'm a perfect example of that. My daughter.
Sure.
So I don't know how long the break was. There was a reprieve.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Well, you get on with life and you change or you move or you get a different email or what happens, and they try to get a hold of you.
You don't know that they said you have to start making payments.
Correct. And that's what happened to her. So
and they're getting ready to start coming after everybody.
They already are.
In October, they said by October they're going to start going in and doing wage garnishments.
I heard that.
Or tax people that normally get tax refunds won't be getting those tax refunds.
Yeah.
They're going to start doing all of this. And so the reasons to refinance, maybe they did buy when interest rates were higher. All of those people want to refinance. But this pent-up demand of credit card debt, cars that are so expensive now that they're paying for these cars. So if they can utilize their home, even though the interest rate might be 6% more than they want to pay, but it's spread over 30 years. So by eliminating credit card debt and maybe the car payment and some other things, their actual cash flow is a tremendous break.
Yep. Big time.
It's incredible.
That's 100%
That's
thing.
a great call. Like your 2.6 doesn't matter if you're paying 8, 9, 10,
21%.
21 on your credit cards. I mean,
Yeah.
that totally would offset that. Yeah.
You paying
That's a great point.
4,400 in overall
Outflow.
and your mortgage is 2,000 or whatever, and you can go to 2,800 in outflow on just the mortgage. That's $1,600 improvement. Like that happens all the time. I mean, I've had clients that personally can remember $5,000 and $6,000 swings in monthly outflow when you talk car payments, credit cards, personal loans.
Well, and remember, that's after tax, too.
Yep.
Think about it. So you're saving that money that's been taxed. So really, it's a big savings.
Big time. And when people start talking about rebooting loans, a lot of them too, you can set them up on a 30-year, give them a number to pay extra towards principal, and pay those loans off faster. There's so many things that go so much deeper than the interest rate. And there was such a shock that everybody experienced because we were so conditioned, and you see that. I mean, I love when I see messages about people. I mean, I got in the business, rates were at levels they are now, like that I didn't normalized, but you have a lot of people who they don't think it's a good interest rate unless it's got a 3 in front of it or a 4 in front of it, and yeah, like if that's all I you can understand it, but the overall picture, and that's again what goes back to me with professionals and advice and overall, like being an advisor and a consultant that is far greater in value for people. Like you said, the first person they come into contact with. Well, the first person that takes the time to answer their questions, make them feel comfortable to go through their position, start talking about their plans for, getting married, having kids, their, whatever it is in their life, moving jobs. Those are the people that you want to trust to have those conversations. And when they go to look you up and see, what do they see? Do they get the sense that you're that person that they can connect with and talk to? And and also, if you're going to grow your business and you're going to deliver value, you have to understand what is it that the need is today. And to me, that's the pent-up demand we're all getting ready for. But our entire episode today really talking, what are you doing to prepare for it? What are you really doing? And I ask this question all the time. What would happen to you if tomorrow you saw a 50% jump in your business? Could you even handle it? Like a lot of times I'll talk, could you handle it as an agent? Do you have, your team is gone? Could you take all those listing appointments? Could you get to them? You would probably at 50, but could you at a double up? Or would you run out of bandwidth? What's the level? Where would you break? And when you start having the conversations and people start thinking, it's just a different mindset. It's an offensive mindset. It's a success-driven mindset. It's a move away from the scarcity mindset. And to tie a bow on kind of this whole thing, where I think people lose their way, and what I find is none of the scaling makes sense if you're not going to use that time you've created to generate more leads. We have this, you and I talk about this a lot. You can do a whole lot if what you do with your time generates more business, provides value to your customers. It's very difficult to create scale if when you make more time for yourself, you waste it on things that don't generate business. And that top 6% you referenced earlier when we were talking about, they do not lose sight of the fact that when they free up time, they need that lead funnel to be being filled at all times and in all sorts of ways. And that allows them to focus on scale. And so I think where the gap exists that too many people lack is they create time and delegate, they waste that time. They don't use it to create more business.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of what we're talking about all the time is, how do you do that? Because you can't just go show up somewhere and just meet a bunch of people on the fly in the same way. You have to have a plan, and social media and internet and web-based communication and video is really how you reach an audience.
It's working so much smarter when you're on social. So each one of us on an average has 200 contacts. That's an average. So think about that. I can get in front of 200 people in one click, or I can make 200 phone calls. I should do the social media and then really dive into my database, my really inner circle that refers me business. That's where I need to spend my time. So you're right. The people that use social media to get more time to work their personal sphere, it's a win.
That's
Not
the
to
gap.
just go home earlier.
Or yeah.
Or to scroll social
Or to
media
scroll.
just to
I
waste
rarely
time.
scroll, to be honest with you. I rarely scroll. I post and leave. So I use social media as a way to make money. That's it. You know what I mean? Like, there are some other reasons, but for the most part,
So you're saying you don't see the stuff that I post?
I do not see a lot because I don't. Because you're right. It's a rabbit hole. You can be on that thing for an hour and not even know it, right? And waste your whole day. It's so
Happens
easy.
to people all the time.
All the time. So you have to be very intentional with your social media time that you block. Like an hour, I'm going to do a post. I'm going to like certain people. I'm going to comment and really engage with who I want to engage with.
Yep.
Yep.
And that to me, this is my challenge to anyone that I am coaching, that I talk with. You have to take, and that's why coaching as a business is such a big industry, right? You have to take an honest look at yourself in the mirror. What are my habits? What is my comfort zone? What am I going to revert to when I kind of just fall into my comfort zone? And where is that going to leave opportunity on the table? And then based on that honest reflection, how do I build an infrastructure around me that's going to push me and challenge me to stay out of my comfort zone? And that's where culture, which is from a sports perspective, I love the word. Business has overused it in ways where it's terrible culture, it gets talked about, but really culture is so important for each individual. Like, who am I surrounding myself with? Who is going to push me to stay disciplined, to focus on those things? And where I think the entire discussion around this is important is when you go off and you are now kind of an independent, like whether it's going to the broker space or you've kind of isolated yourself into an independent kind of world where you're sending your business off, you have put yourself in a position where it's all on you, and you need to rebuild that infrastructure around your weaknesses with an honest look. And so if you're looking for that success, you do need to think about, who are you surrounding yourself with? Like, that's not a new thing. I mean, I tell it to my kids all the time. You are who your friends are, right? Like, you're a reflection. But in business, we all need to take a look at ourselves and say, all right, if I'm left to my own devices, where am I going to fall short? Mm-hmm. And where am I going to really need someone to hold me accountable and push me? And I think for everyone watching that's trying to scale and build from here, that's the $1 million question we've been asking ourselves most of our lives. But right now, it hasn't clicked yet. So you have time to build that infrastructure and that discipline,
or be in the right place that other people have already built it.
Exactly. And if you're not someone who likes to be like, I don't love being interrupted, and I'm a hyper focused person, so learning to multitask is its own challenge. Like being a dad, it's always an adjustment for me. I like when I'm in a project and locked in, so get it done, get it to a team, move on. Some people love jumping in and out. I think women do really well with that in general. if you're one of those people and you don't have that, like, you're going to struggle, like, but you have to know yourself. And, I'm curious, like, when you talk to people as leaders, like, what do you see as the biggest blind spot? Kind of our last kind of topic, the biggest blind spot that causes people to not jump in, that causes them to miss their opportunities, right? Is it a fear deal? Is it a lack of, discipline? Is it, what do you guys generally see and think that everybody that is successful, and there's probably a few, but that is successful has managed to clear this hurdle to, get ahead of the game?
I go back to the miracle morning. I think that is a game changer. I think your whole day starts with your morning foundation and those concepts that you do to set up your day. I think a lot of the top performers all share in that same system. And that is, whatever it is, meditation, exercise. I forget what they were. No. Silence. It's called savers. So visualization.
Mm-hmm.
So just setting up your day, even
It's
if
a
it
great
takes,
book.
it is a great book. Hal Elrod wrote it, and it's really gives you simple precepts, and you can do it in 15 minutes or an hour, just depending how long you want to do it. But it sets up your mindset for the rest of your day, like readjust it, recalibrate it. He's actually coming here on October 16th. If you want to check it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's a good speaker too. He had a really hard life and really looked at what the top performers do and everything that they had in common and created these systems.
Of course, top performers have already moved past some of the normal challenges that, if we want to talk about the 6% as opposed to the 94%. So I think that the 94%, I think that there's always a series of challenges that they are having issues moving into that 6%. It could be fear-based. And sometimes there's a big fear of success. You don't really understand it, but a lot of people, they look at the 6% and they go, I don't really want to spend all of that time. I don't want to
work that hard.
I don't really want to work that hard. Mm-hmm. I've spoken to a lot of people in their careers, and it's, I don't work weekends, and I don't work after 5:00, and I don't do, and you're going, okay, so obviously there's some limitations there that you look at these other people and don't want to do what they do. So I do believe that it manifests itself in fear. If I had to work that hard, then I wouldn't be able to play golf every Saturday or whatever it is. So I think that's one of them. I believe that for a lot of people, there is a true lack of buy-in to a vision or a lack of vision that you can tell someone, you can tell them till you're blue in the face, if you'll do this, 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 and this, you'll be successful. And they don't truly buy into it. They would like to be successful, but they don't buy into it. It's just like, if you're struggling with your weight, well, that's it's pretty easy. You just gotta expand more calories than you're bringing in.
In terms of the technical solution is a math equation for most. Yeah,
but until they truly buy in. I had a really good friend. He was overweight, and he got really sick, and we thought he was going to die, and he needed to lose the weight in order to have a specific surgery that could potentially save his life, but there was no way to do the surgery till he lost the weight. And I'm going to tell you something. He bought in to the vision and the requirement, and I was blown away how he was able to lose all that weight At the same time, I needed to lose weight too. And, well, his vision was, I'm going to die.
Right.
Mine it's hard to tie my tennis shoes sometimes. Yeah, but he bought in to a vision and a requirement and a need. And so I think a lot of people,
Just
they
don't
never
have
truly,
the why.
I
Maybe
just
they don't have the
yeah,
why.
They just don't. So I think that if you boiled it down, those are the two biggest things. They don't have the why. I like that. And they have a fear that I don't really want to work that hard.
I agree with all. For me, I was going to say vision as the front point. You have to have clarity, right? Which is the vision of what is my goal. Like I always say, I know what the top of the mountain looks like, where I want to go. You can't start the journey unless you know where you want to go. That can change, but you have to have something you're chasing. And then you have to look down at your feet and say, now I have to do these things, and they're non-negotiable, which is I have to start taking steps. And to me, if people don't have the vision, they wander aimlessly for sure. But when they do, then it's discipline to block out distractions. And one of the ways that I've always, personally found the best levels of success for me is when I know these three things are non-negotiable. I don't care what happens today. This day is not successful unless those three things are done. Now, if I get 27 other things done along the way, then it was an excellent day. But if I do those 27 and these three aren't done, I failed. And I think our business, because of it being sales, a lot of times the distractions and the inflow disrupts people's focus on their three priorities, right? And so like building out a marketing plan, getting consistent on conversations with your database, building relationships with partnerships that help generate business, investing in new lead funnels, crafting your value prop, like all that. This is a priority and nothing gets in the way. And I think in our industries, particularly, the other 94% get distracted too easily. And so they don't get those things done.
100%.
Yep.
Two things that have really helped me like elevate my game and kind of helped me through the hard times is one, to get up like an hour earlier than you're used to, that extra hour in the morning. And number two, whenever I don't feel like doing so, it's my favorite quote: successful people do what unsuccessful people don't. And I think about that quote like, okay, if I'm going to be in the top 1%, I got to do what everybody else isn't doing, right?
Isn't willing to do. And I think that if you think about that, I'm like, okay, yep, I'm doing it. I don't like doing it. I hate it. And doing videos at 4, 5 in the morning, it's a lot. But look what you get in return. So you got to get uncomfortable. If you got to do things that you don't like. And I think if you come to that realization, it will pay off. You just got to power through it. There's a saying somewhere in there about, you got to be willing to do today what others won't so that you can do
Jerry Rice
in the future what they can't.
That's Jerry Rice.
Is that Jerry Rice?
Yes, it is.
Did I get it?
Did I get it
close?
Yes.
I was close. I know I'm close on it.
Yes.
That's 100%. Being uncomfortable is something is a cliche now, but people talk about embracing the process, loving the process. That element of like getting enjoyment out of knowing, hey, because this is uncomfortable, I'm getting ahead. Like I know there's people out there that are quitting, and then in your mind knowing if I quit on this or I don't do this, someone else is getting ahead of me. I've always taken that from my athletic background, like that.
Oh no,
that's
great.
Like that internal challenge.
And that's actually my second favorite quote, because it's today I will do what others won't. So tomorrow I can achieve what others can't. That is a powerful statement, especially in the times that we're in right now, because we are in a time of explosion and change. And if we can embrace it and run with it, we win. And I just think I would just say those quotes over and over, because you really got to work on your mindset now, because there's so much coming in. Chat, social, every program you should buy. Like just simplify it and be you. Just be you. Mm-hmm. And I think you can get a lot of traction right now.
Perfectly said. I think that is a perfect wrap to the segment and the episode for the day.
Good.
As usual, you say it better and more concisely than Buzz and I combined. So
It was your quote. Good job, Buzz.
Yeah,
That's a
and,
good
and,
one.
and you brought the
Yeah,
That's a
legend.
great one.
Close. I was close.
Yeah, you were.
You know.
Yes.
You're gonna make me pull out all my Tom Brady quotes that I obsess over because I love his, but and the Michael Jordan ones.
It's been an exciting week. You know, from our standpoint on the mortgage side, it's been all about employment numbers this week, and it's, you know, all the news about the Federal Reserve and all of those things going on. We do feel like interest rates are inching better, and we do feel this change in the market. People coming into the market. There's more houses for sale now than it's been in years, they're saying. So things are changing. It's been an important week. Even though it's been a short one, it's been an important one. I think next week is I think we're going to see us continue with that momentum. So, and next week we have another really great guest.
Absolutely looking forward to bringing on some, heavy hitters and big producers
Right.
in the Placer and Greater Sacramento markets, and those that have stepped up and do quite a bit and make an impact in social, radio, all sorts of formats. So stay tuned and look forward to next week's guest. We're excited to have them. And as always, thank you for joining us, Julie, and dropping your wisdom and always putting us to shame in how efficiently and concisely and perfectly you deliver your messages.
Oh,
so
She is a little polished, isn't she?
Yeah.
Wow.
A lot of practice.
I'd like
Buzz.
to say I'll get there, but I know my lane. So, and
I'll be the comic relief. I'm okay with that.
yeah, just sit there and look stupid, and we'll be good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Buzz. Wow.
Am I bleeding a little bit there?
Love it. Well, another episode. We're really appreciate you all tuning in. Hopefully there's a nugget of wisdom in there. And for all of you out there that are trying to prep yourself for what's to come, hope there's a nugget that gets you motivated. Thanks for tuning in to the Blitz Break. I'm your host, Phil Rasmussen. Have a great weekend.